Hello, hello. Uh, Welcome back. Turn my camera down. Put less ceiling in there. So we just had a thunderstorm, kind of. Well, hailstorm. No thunder, just hail. And I checked the radar, and I think there's more coming, so if the house starts shaking, or you hear big storm noises, that's what that's coming from. I have a very bare bones idea for today. To the degree that I don't know what the end result's going to be, because I don't know where I'm going to take this. We probably end up with some kind of pasta. I don't know. But it's because the thing I'm making, that is my creative thrust today, is music is too loud today. I didn't adjust anything. It's literally all the same settings. How about now? I don't know. Maybe that song was just loud. Anyways, if you'll think back to last week when I made octopus, I simmered it in a stock, a fish stock, with a couple of vegetables. Well, that basically made octopus stock, which I've got here. As you can see, there's a little bit of scum has formed on top of that, so we're going to be straining it before I get into anything with it, because I don't want any of that stuff in my finished product. But I don't have a ton of ideas what to do with stock in general, so I went and did some research. One of the French mother sauces. If you're familiar with the French mother sauces, they're supposedly the most basic sauces in French cooking. All the other sauces are based on. One of the French mother sauces is based on a light stock. So I'm going to try making octopus velouté. But that's just a sauce. So I'm going to have to think of things to do with it. And because it is a mother sauce, you can build upon the velouté to make different sauces. So I might end up looking up something to do that, depending on how things progress. So yeah, real loose plan today. We'll see where we end up. Yeah. That's pretty much it. Oh, the velouté is essentially a thickened stock, and that got me thinking about these condensed cream of soups. And I looked at the ingredients, and they are basically thickened stock, just like you would make velouté. So that's essentially what these things are. They're just thickened to the point where they've formed a jello consistency. So we're kind of making that. So if I have extra, I guess I'll save it and I can use it as a cream soup base, because there's no cream in the cream soup. It's thickened with flour, just like I'm going to be doing. So let's get cooking. Move my pink starting sign there. Get us over to the counter, which is looking very yellow today for some reason. So I need to strain my stock. And we're going to do that carefully. I don't want to put it directly into the pot that I'm going to be cooking it in, because it needs to build a roux first. So I guess we're going to go with a medium-large bowl. And some cheesecloth. I have some cheesecloth here in the other room that's not cut to size. So I will continue my chatter while I go find a scissors and bring it back. So they got this massive sheet. This was a different brand than I normally get of cheesecloth. And it comes in this massive sheet that's really not what I was thinking of when I was thinking of usable cheesecloth. So I guess I'm gonna cut a square off of it because it's way too much. It's also got like a proper hem on it. It's strange. I'm not sure what this cheesecloth is designed for when it's this big. But I'm just gonna cut a square off. I don't see how... I might be able to wash this one. Oftentimes you can't really effectively wash your cheesecloth after you've used it because it gets really gunky. Since I'm just doing a strained broth-ish thing here, should have measured that out before I went nuts with it. Oh well. Get us back over there. I'm going to do the same kind of thing I do when I strain my oil when I do a fry. Is I fold out a triangle, and then you can pop it open on the inside. I think I can get it double layered. Nope, that fell apart. Well, I guess I'm just going to awkwardly triangle fold it. And use the single layered cone. This stuff. So what's happened here is you've got parts of it have floated to the top and parts of it have sunk to the bottom since it's been sitting in my fridge. And I would like those things to not be in either of those places. The pink parts are, near as I can tell, bits of the octopus that kind of broke down in the long slow cook. You don't want that in a sauce. If you're making a nice, like, French cookery sauce, you can't have bits. So, probably should do that through several layers of cheesecloth just to make sure it's really strained, but I'm not quite that picky. So that's going to be set aside. Near as I can tell with a veloute, you can make it in advance and then keep it warm, or even reheat it, and it's still good. Just like the condensed soups and stuff. So, I'm probably going to make the whole thing into sauce rather than save any part of it. It's quite a bit. Forgot to check on the side of my jar here how much I had. I've got more than 3 cups. So I'm going to... Let's get over to the stove and start a roux. A regular butter roux should be fine. The idea here is to thicken up the liquid with suspended starches and fats. It will result in a thick, gravy-like texture. If it's a bit too thick, you can add more of the broth. So we're not going to do the whole thing in one go. So I'm going to go with have the extra butter in the waiting in the wings just in case. But we're going to start with 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of flour in our pan, which we start by popping in our butter and bringing it to a melt over just under medium heat, medium-low. We don't want our butter to brown. Once the butter is all liquidy, we will add 2 tablespoons, maybe just shy of 2 tablespoons of flour, and start cooking them together into a roux. Function of your roux, the function of cooking it this way gets the individual bits of flour fully saturated and coated in the fats from the butter. You can do this with any fat, it doesn't have to be butter. You can do this with coconut oil, you could do this with beef tallow, you could do this with olive oil. It just has to be equal parts oil and flour to form a nice stable roux. And then the roux thickens of whatever liquid you add it to or to it. The goal, this is the classic French test. Stick a spoon in it, and pick the spoon up and look at the back of the spoon. And the sauce should stick to the back of the spoon in a nice, even coating, not lumpy, and it also shouldn't run off. You shouldn't be able to see the spoon through the stuff. And while I'm starting this, I need some brainstorming ideas for what I'm gonna do with it. You can treat a veloute as a soup if you want to, since it is essentially thickened stock, and what is soup but stock and stuff in it. I could do a little research and try to take it the next step into one of the other French sauces, use it as a mother sauce. Oh boy. Goodbye, bot. Yes. It's a very similar principle to making gravy. I would actually argue that the classic American turkey gravy, or any of those gravies, is actually a French veloute. That's been gussied up with like the drippings. And since the drippings are essentially what you're extracting from meats when you make a stock anyways, it's very similar. There's a Wikipedia, I pulled up Wikipedia on the side here. Wikipedia has a list of sauces derived from veloute. One of them is mushroom based. I've got a bunch of mushrooms. I could do that one. Poulette. Made with an Allemande sauce, which is a veloute with egg yolks and lemon and cream added to it. Geez, that sounds rich. I could make a... I've never made a meat mousse. I have one time made a chicken liver pate, and I ended up not eating enough of it, and then it went all oxidized in my freezer when I tried to freeze the rest of it to save it. Um, Poulette sounds very... Well, Poulette is another sauce, so it should be served over the top of something. That's the trouble with making sauce, is you need something to put the sauce on. You can't just have sauce. Anyways, my butter is melted, so we're going to add some flour and start pushing it around. Really need a better place for my flour. It's in the back corner of the countertop behind the spice rack. So, slightly less than full 2 tablespoon worths there. And then we have to get out one of our whisks, and I am going to use the red whisk today because it's got coated coils, even though it's really floppy and terrible. But it's because this is a non-stick pot. And I don't want to risk scratching up my non-stick surface with one of my steel whisks. But, and if this becomes too thick, add a little bit of butter to it. And if it becomes too runny, add a little bit of flour to it. This actually looks like a really good consistency to me. You just want to cook this enough that it... So the traditions of roux is it comes in colors, and it starts out like this, which I believe is a blonde roux. Then you can progress it into a brown roux by cooking it, and that's when the flour, not the butter, but the flour, starts to take on color from the cooking. Then you can get it into a dark roux, and they have slightly different thickening properties. I'm pretty sure it thickens less aggressively the more you darken it, but it also gives it more flavor. It imparts kind of a nutty, toasty flavor because you're toasting flour. That looks pretty well incorporated. I'm gonna let that sit and think about itself for just a minute. Tiny Whisk is a scourge. He's over here on the main countertop. He might see some use later, but he's gonna bite into that that nonstick coating. Although they do have rounded edges, so it's not the worst thing in the world. One of my whisks, the big version of Tiny Whisk, this guy here. I made something in a steel bowl that needed a lot of whisking. And that's when I learned that you should not use a steel bowl when you're doing a lot of whisking. Because giant Tiny Whisk, it's literally the same whisk but enormous. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but the outer layers of the metal have been scraped away right on the end there. And it doesn't seem to be rusting, but it's visibly damaged, which I don't super like that happened. So I'm going to stick with not doing that. So our roux has changed color, and it smells toasty. This is a light brown. I'm going to start adding the stock at this point, and I'm going to add it a half cup at a time. get the dish in here and whisk it in. Guess I'm going to add it an awkward amount at a time. We're going to have to pour that. I want to add the whole thing all at once. I want it to incorporate. Before I add more. Ooh, the octopus smell is definitely prominent. And as you can see, it's almost immediately thickening into a thick paste. So we're up to 1 cup. I'm shooting for a consistency, so I want to add until I've reached that consistency. Thankfully, it's fairly forgiving to add more, and it breaks up the little lumps and forms a nice smooth sauce. And then it thickens until it starts to set. Takoyaki flavored spaghetti. What else goes into a takoyaki? I'm listening. I'm listening. But we have to think, what else goes into a takoyaki? Because at the moment, I've got octopus stock spaghetti, which is not the same thing. Green onion. I've got green onions. I can do that. Pickled ginger. I do have some pickled ginger. Somewhere. Somewhere. There it is. Pickled ginger. Do have some pickled ginger. Okay, we're starting to bubble and it's becoming very thick. Get the spoon. I don't have bonito flakes. I don't know what goes into okonomiyaki sauce. I could maybe facsimilate it. That's actually a pretty good consistency already. If I it's only a cup. But the thing is here, it will set more as it cools. Currently it's hot enough to bubble, so I want to get it a bit thinner than this so that as we actually cool it to an edible temperature, because you don't eat things literally boiling hot. I think taking the roux to a light brown is letting me get away with adding a bit less of the liquid. Less sweet teriyaki. I'm gonna pull up and see what Google says. Okonomiyaki sauce. Okay, there's a recipe for it, and it's not what you would think they would tell you to make it out of. Worcester sauce, ketchup, sugar, and oyster sauce is what this recipe is. That's going to be a pretty punchy result. We could try it. This is meant to all be about fun experimentation. And I've got some... Now they, of course, pictures of okonomiyaki. You know what goes into okonomiyaki. You know what goes into okonomiyaki. I've got 2 kinds of cabbage available as well. Well, in this case, the octopus is taking the place of the octopus. Since we're not making okonomiyaki spaghetti, we're making takoyaki spaghetti. This is a touch thinner than I wanted it to be now. Because if I take my spoon, first of all, let me taste. If I take my spoon, it doesn't coat the back. Wow, it tastes really good. I think if I take that off the heat, it will start to thicken a bit more. Or I could take it to a full boil, which one of the recipes said, take it to a full boil before you take it off the heat. So I'm going to bring the heat up and give it a good hard boil for just a moment before I take it off the heat. I'm sure that it's well thickened. Okay. I think we're cooking with ideas now. Got a little bit of stock left there too, so we could get funky with that. The other reason I don't think that the octopus sauce is a good substitute for oyster sauce is because it's made in a very different way. Oyster sauce is like oyster proteins and sugar cooked to death until they start to thicken. And we're bubbling, and we're bubbling. Now there's only a cup and a half of liquid in here for 2 tablespoons of roux, which I would think is not enough. And I think it's only being watery like this because it's still so hot. Okay, well if we're doing a pasta base, then I need to get that started. I've got some spaghetti on hand, which is good. Move my remaining liquid to the side there. I guess we're committing to spaghetti. Well, we're committing to something boiled if I start boiling water. So let's start that. I also have mushrooms that, if we don't use them today, I'm going to have to start making things with mushrooms for myself because I've got a lot of mushrooms. Okay, so starters, putting some water and salt on the back corner to start boiling up. I've got spaghetti, so I can do a spaghetti. So I was kind of not planning on doing a weird fusion food today because I have a weird fusion food idea for Friday. But I guess we're going in for weird fusion food today, so. So, here's my idea for Friday while we get ingredients put together. You know what? Tiny whisk is the job for okonomiyaki sauce. Or okonomiyaki sauce is the job for tiny whisk, for sure. Just have to get the proportions right. That's a lot. I don't need a whole jar of this stuff. Cripe's sake. Oop, we're boiling over here. I'm adding another cup because I think this is just going to turn into a block of Jello when I take it off the heat, as it is. Cream of octopus soup. You never knew you wanted it. Okay, I'm gonna take you fully off the heat. Push it here. It should start to thicken up as it cools, and we can see if it needs any more liquid added to it. You can always add more liquid to thin it out if it ends up too thick. Let's get you back over here. I've measured out some spaghetti with my old through the finger method. I was about to tell you about the crazy fusion plan I have thought up. I want to try making a pizza out of fried rice. Not put fried rice on top of a pizza and not make a pizza flavored fried rice, but construct an entire pizza out of a fried rice. That's my weird fusion idea. After the successes of the sushi rice and ramen buns, I think I've got the trick for causing loose ingredients to set into a crust that you can cook with figured out. So that's my I guess that's where I'm going with. And pizza, one of the first things I did was that cheesecake pizza. I'm returning to my roots and making pizza out of things that you should not make pizza out of. Anyways, water boiling. I'm going to make just for you, I'm going to make this okonomiyaki sauce. The recipe here makes 1 jar of okonomiyaki sauce, which is a lot. It wants a 1/4 cup of oyster sauce, which is too much. We're going to cut that in to smaller portions. You're lucky I just bought some new oyster sauce because I was out of it. Otherwise, we couldn't do this. I always get the oyster sauce with the little panda on it because it's Lee Kum-kee, who supposedly is the guy who discovered oyster sauce accidentally by overcooking his oysters. The story of a man making oyster soup. Forget about it. Came back several hours later, and it was a thick, crazy paste. He tasted it, and he was like, that's good. My tablespoon is currently covered in flour, so I guess I'll just gently clean that off. The stories behind the creations of some of our most beloved foods are just dumb. Like, a man made oyster soup and forgot about it. Or somebody forgot to wash the sheep's stomach they were keeping their fresh milk in, and it turned to cheese. Okay, oyster sauce. That's a lot of oyster sauce. I love oyster sauce. This stuff's great. I bought it because I'm going to need it for fried rice pizza. And if fried rice pizza fails, I can make pizza fried rice, which is fried rice made out of pizza ingredients, which is a whole different can of worms. A whole different bucket of fish. Our water's coming up over there. Even cutting the recipe into a quarter, this is a lot. I have to stick with it now because I got to get the proportions right. But our water's just come to a rolling boil. I'm using my finger, but if you're doing this in a professional kitchen, don't use your finger for this part. Okay, spaghetti in the water. What is a quarter of 3? What is a quarter of 7? Such awkward amounts on this recipe. I've also got a brand new bottle of Worcestershire sauce, but that's not because I just bought it. It's because I bought it ages ago and I hardly ever use Worcestershire sauce. So I guess this is as good a time to any is open that up. Quarter of 7 is oh god. Conversion. I hate imperial measurements for things. Why can't we all just be metric and happy? Okay, so the teaspoon we need. What are you doing? Bottle. Okay, bottle. Get rid of that little thing that's choking off the flow of my sauce. 1, 2, 3, 5. Approximately 5 teaspoons. I spilled it all over the table. So slovenly. Oop. Make sure that doesn't boil over. Good as new, like it never happened. And the last ingredient is just straight up sugar. 3 tablespoons of sugar. That's a lot of sugar. But we're cutting that into a quarter as well. So there isn't a quarter tablespoon measure, so we're going to just do it eyeballed with the half tablespoon for that lump. And about half. Okay, this should be, here's the whisk, put these bottles away. This, in theory, should be the thing. The stuff, the, whatchamacallit, okonomiyaki sauce. The tang of the Worcestershire is what's coming through in the smell, overwhelmingly. Come on, mouse. This is still more sauce than I think I'm going to need. Okay. I think I've had okonomiyaki sauce a couple times. So I know what I have in my head what I think it's going to taste like. So let's see if it actually tastes like it. It's a good sauce consistency. It covers the back of your finger quite well. Mmm. Sharp and salty and sweet. Much more acidic than like a soy glaze or a teriyaki. It's pretty good. I don't know if it's authentic, but it's pretty good. I'd eat that. Which is good, because I'm gonna eat that. Okay. So, let's get... Cutting board is getting preloaded because I'm going to cut up some cabbage. Let's get back over here. Bring our veloute, which is developed a skin, and is still quite liquidy, honestly. I might add a tiny bit of cornstarch if it doesn't firm up a little bit more, because I think that last half cup, it was perfect, and I was like, it can't possibly be perfect. It's too thin. Okay. I realized that I've been doing cornstarch wrong. So we're going to do cornstarch correctly for a change. For this, we need to clean off Tiny Whisk, because he will be called to action once again. So the way I've been doing adding cornstarch to something to thicken it is I add the cornstarch directly to whatever I'm cooking, and then I end up with these weird little lumps. And what I should be doing is starting a little bowl with cold water and just a little bit of cornstarch. And then whisking that into a nice even slurry. Because if you put the cornstarch directly into hot liquid, it starts to immediately seize into lumps. But if you put it into cold liquid, it can dissolve. And then when you add that to your whatever you're trying to thicken, it completely avoids the lumps. And I have been doing this wrong forever. Forever. Which is why I've always had such a bad opinion of cornstarch. I have definitely over watered this thing. Should have been left to thicken. Our pasta is boiled. It's formed a beautiful, perfect torus in there. See if I can get that on camera. Look at what the pasta has done to itself. It's formed this like braided wreath of noodles. Kind of amazing. I don't think I've ever seen my pasta do that before. Well, this is your idea. I'm not sure what to go. Where I can. Hello. We're taking a hard left turn. Felix suggested, because I only came in this with the intent of making octopus veloute, which I have made a little bit too runny, and I'm trying to thicken up into a proper sauce now. But I didn't have a place to go with it. Felix suggested that I try making a takoyaki flavored spaghetti. So that's the direction I've headed with this. I've got spaghetti noodles cooked. We've made okonomiyaki sauce. I've got some cabbage on hand. My veloute is thin. But this isn't a thing. This isn't a recipe we can follow. So I need some guidance. I think I want to add some cabbage to it, even though takoyaki does not contain cabbage. Okonomiyaki does. So I've got two kinds of cabbage. One of them is purple cabbage, and one of them is kale, which is a kind of cabbage. I've had this kale for a bit now, and it's turning a little bit off in color, so I want to make sure to use it. It's just yellowing right around the edges, which is perfectly fine to eat, but, you know, it's a sign that it's getting a little bit old. But I don't totally know what the plan is here. So at the minute, I'm kind of just making stuff, and it's going to fall together into a food. Everything should be edible. But it's becoming a weird fusion dish. Hello, Cut. Welcome in. I see you're a fan of Sal. I've been directed into some nonsense. I think I want to cook these. Stir fry the noodles in the sauce. I could stir fry the noodles in the sauce. I definitely want to stir fry the kale and the cabbage. Because raw kale and raw cabbage aren't super nice to eat, but I don't want to cook them a ton. I want to maintain that crunch, that nice crunch. They just need to cook down a little bit. They need to soften up a little bit. I also would be concerned. I just I would have to reconstruct my walk. My walk. The other day, I accidentally de-seasoned my walk, and I had to then strip it the rest of the way down and re-season it from bare metal, because I threw something that was a bit too acidic in it, and seasoning just decided to give up the ghost. Alright, I'm peeling another leaf off of this red cabbage because I think they get hard to pull apart when you get down to the middle. But they provide such a nice color that I definitely want some more of this red cabbage in our mix. So I'm hesitant about using the wok right away because I just finished reseasoning it. It got the handle. The handle's here. The handle's here. I will give you my food as soon as I am done with it. We are in uncharted territory with this food. You come to my back door, which is right over there. I will hand it directly out to you, and you can have what I've made. Okay. So, in lieu of since the wok is slightly out of commission, I am just going to do it with a nonstick. Oh, thanks. I can't remember where I got this knife. It used to have one of those plastic covers that goes over the end, and that disappeared. It's not the nicest knife in the world, but it's sharp and it's got fun colors on it. Okay. Well, let's get over to the stovetop. And see what we can see. We're doing a stir fry. First of all, it's gonna be quick. But I need a little bit of oil to start us off. And then get the heat on. Okay, so live problem solving of who knows what I'm making. Let's get those cabbages into a bowl so they can be ready to go once the heat comes up. We're putting green onions in. The green onions will probably want to go in toward the end. So what do you think? Do I want regular onion as well? I could put that in to wake up the sauce. I've also got hot peppers. Since nothing is spicy in this at the moment, I could break up one of these little chili peppers, throw it in the oil to give it a jump. I don't think of takoyaki as typically being spicy, though, so maybe not. What do you think? Hot pepper in the oil? No hot pepper in the oil. I've also got a jalapeno that I let turn completely orange. It's got a little wrinkly, but it's still good. Cut votes for spicy. I can do spicy. I like spicy. It's just that I'm not sure that the dish is intended to be spicy. But again, the dish is not intended to be anything. We're literally made this up in the past half hour. So we'll get the hot pepper in the oil and get it kind of toasting. I think the velouté will chill it out a little bit anyway, so I'm not super concerned about it being blow your head off spicy. But now I gotta wait for that to toast a little bit. I'm gonna throw some black pepper in there too. I am gonna throw some black pepper in there, but I'm gonna wait for that to toast a little bit before I throw the black pepper in there. Let's see. Get out all my other ingredients. Here's our Cookery, our sauce, our green onion. I need to start growing my own green onions. I go through these things so fast that this year I'm gonna plant some. Maybe some chives too. Just so I have them on hand. I typically grow herbs in little pots because I don't actually have a proper garden. So I'm picky about which ones I do grow. It's got to be something that I know I will get my efforts worth out of it. Something that is worth keeping up with. Okay, our crushed up chili is turning the color. I am going to start some new herbs. I need basil. I'm still working through my jar of dried basil from last year, but I love basil, so I'll get some more fresh basil going on. I probably won't plant oregano this time. I find it very fiddly to take care of, and I don't think that it's worth picking and drying, having done that last year. The leaves are just so small and annoying to get to, and oregano's not terribly expensive, and I don't use a lot of it. So there was an herb that I saw at the very end of last summer, that I thought might be a good substitute, called Cuban oregano, which isn't actually related to oregano, but it has a similar flavor, and it's a succulent, so it should be easy to take care of. So I might look for that, see if I can find that. Because that would also make for a good house plant. Green onions and chives are both on my list of things to look for. And I've still got my thyme and rosemary that I pulled through the winter in the front window. Rosemary is very easy to take care of. So that one's been fine. You can see over here on the, oops, not that one, on this angle, I don't know if you can, the chili flakes have turned from red to an orange to now a toasty brown color, so I like parsley, but I have a terrible time growing parsley last year. It was really stringy, and it didn't give me a lot of leaves, and I felt like I was taking too much of it whenever I took any of it. So it might have just been they were in too small of a pot, but I had a really bad time with parsley last year, so I wasn't going to do parsley again, even though I like parsley and would use parsley. Okay. Probably should have strained these guys right when I was done cooking them, but oh well. Okay. Cabbage is softened. Pasta's in there, sizzling. We're gonna add the stuff. Goodly amount. It's gonna turn a little bit purple because of the cabbage, no doubt. That is the octopus veloute that I made at the beginning of the show. It is a little bit thinner than I was going for because I ended up adding more stock at the end. The kickoff for this whole thing is when I made the octopus last week, I simmered it in that stock. Well, I saved that stock because it's basically octopus stock now. So, well, what do you do with the leftover fish stock? Well, the internet told me that you make veloute out of it, one of the French mother sauces. So I made octopus veloute. And then we had a brainstorming session of what do you do with an octopus veloute. And Felix helpfully chimed in with, what if, and then said words that had never been combined before in the history of the world. And that's what we're making. We're making that what if. It was, what if you made takoyaki spaghetti? And so here we are, which is why I cut some cabbage, why I've cut some green onion. We made okonomiyaki sauce. I've also got my QP out and some pickled ginger. I want to, since my sauce here was a bit thinner than I was going for, I want to, it's a tasty sauce. This stuff is tasty. I don't want to overcook the cabbage. I want it to still have its bright color and its crunch, but I also want the stuff to thicken up a touch because it's a little bit runnier than I was hoping for. It wouldn't be a good sauce to just drizzle over the top of something. It needs to be reduced a little bit. So, yeah. It finally happened where I came in with no real idea, and I got chat to tell me what to make, and they told me to make a thing that had never been made, and here we are. got some black pepper in there. This won't need any salt because it's got salt in the stock and it's got salt in the okonomiyaki sauce. The cabbage and kale is looking at about the point where I want to not have it cook anymore, so I think that's gonna be plated. It's gonna be a little bit of a shorter show today, which is fine because I feel like the fried rice pizza is going to end up being a long show. So let's, oops, the buttons are too close together. Let's get this served. I'm gonna actually use tongs. To try to control the drip. I often dribble on the sides of these big... Oh, I did it again. I immediately did it right away, as I was saying how I often do it and wish I wouldn't do it. These big plates are good for service, but you want the sides to be clear. So, this is supposedly takoyaki flavored. I should probably have tasted it before I plated it up. I did taste the velouté earlier when I first made it, but it's it's almost, it's got a butteriness to it, for sure. All the green onion, the whole thing. Pickled ginger. How is pickled ginger typically served on one of these things? That's the question. Should I cut it into strips? I'm going to cut it into little strips, so you can get little bites of it with each bite. Probably doing this off the camera. Yes, I'm doing it behind the... down here. But, little bits of pink pickled ginger to zhuzh up the flavors. The octopus flavor comes through in the sauce. I don't know how the whole shebang tastes. We haven't quite finished constructing it. It's got 2 sauces to add to the top now. Cookery. Of course I lick it. Why would I waste the delicious drippings? If I was doing this in a kitchen, I would, or like for serving to somebody, I wouldn't lick it, but I'd use a towel, but I'm just giving it to myself, so I may as well. That's the Cookery, and then we've got our okonomiyaki sauce, which I'm going to attempt to drizzle using the whisk. What I need is like one of those honey dippers. No, see, that's not. I guess we'll get a small spoon and try to do it with a small spoon. Yeah, that works. So if you missed, the okonomiyaki sauce is the sauce that goes on okonomiyaki. It's also on other things. You find it on takoyaki. I looked up a recipe for this because I didn't know how to make it. I didn't have any. This was made of ketchup, oyster sauce, Worcestershire sauce, and sugar. It's acidic, sharp, bright, punchy. That's a pretty plate, if I do say so myself. I need to snap a couple of pictures of it before I mess up the pretty top, but I think that's a pretty result. It was a little bit of a shorter cook. We will be right back. I know. Taste it. We will be right back because I gotta take pictures for the gram, you know? Cooking isn't about eating, it's about taking pictures of it so people online can see it. And as soon as I dig into it, all those nice lines on the top are going to disappear. So we're gonna just take some pictures at some various angles, and I'll post whichever one is the best one. Okay, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Don't worry, we're back. I love that little fat... Whose little fat squirrel is that? Oh, it's a hype train. It's adorable. Okay, here we are. I've got chopsticks already because I used them to pull the pickled ginger out of the thing. So I could use chopsticks or a fork. I think I'm going to start with chopsticks. And I will... Spaghetti and chopsticks, maybe not the best idea. Okay, well the chopsticks were already dirty, so that's not a waste of chopsticks. But I'm going to get a fork, because I can't quite get this out of here. Okay, that's more like it. Make sure I got a little bit of all the various elements. Push my mic out of the way. Wow, there's a lot going on there. Okay, the first thing that hits me when I take a bite is the creaminess. The Cookery on top and the thick creamy sauce give it this really smooth, creamy flavor and mouthfeel. I know, don't say mouthfeel. Mouthfeel. The octopus flavor is actually quite subtle. I like the little bit of spice that got added from those crisped up chili bits. The volume of this plate is big enough that that's not really giving a really strong, sharp heat. I think it needs a little bit more of this stuff, because that part of it got lost. So I'm gonna... I could taste it for a moment, but it got kind of lost because of the size of the stuff. The cabbage gives it a nice crunch. It's cooked. No, it's very good. I'm gonna polish this whole thing off. I'll probably remember this and make it again. Since I've got... the trick is going to be the octopus flavor in this is present. It's not disappearing. I don't know that it would taste the same without that. But I'm adding a little bit more of the okonomiyaki sauce because I think it needs that little acidic bite to it. I'm taking another bite before I even get off the show. Altogether, it tastes a lot like okonomiyaki. But with the octopus flavor in there and present. Sorry, I'm pacing back and forth because I'm chewing and thinking. The octopus flavor in there does give it a little bit of that takoyaki flavor. So I think we may have succeeded in the stated goal of make takoyaki flavored spaghetti, which is amazing. It's really good. I would say make this yourself, and I would say that I'm going to try to make it again. But I don't know how to get a hold of octopus stock without making that yourself. So that's the hitch to this. If you've got octopus stock, or you're interested in cooking with octopus, after you've boiled your octopus, save it, make stock out of it, and do something like this, because this is actually quite good. It's just that it's got such an odd base ingredient to it. Wow. Well, thanks, Felix. Your idea was a success. We pulled it off together. I literally could not have done this without you. Wow. Ooh, making my nose run a little bit. With the deliciousness. I'm surprised that this is where we ended up when I came in with the idea of making French sauce out of octopus. I'll put my remaining fresh veggies away. I could see you this working. This would probably work fine with non-octopus stocks as well, but you wouldn't get that takoyaki element to it. Other than that, I'd say you could make this out of a standard fish stock, or if you have shrimp shells, a shrimp stock, or heck, you could. You know, the closest thing would be is buy some some squid, either dried squid or like squid stock powder, because you can find that at Asian grocery stores. And then that could be a base for this. It wouldn't be exactly the same, but it would be pretty close. Well, this is delicious, and I want to get to it before it gets cold. So, and I still have not. I don't have a place to set up an eating stream section for this, so we're going to ship you guys off. This is one of my shortest shows yet, but we're going to ship you guys off to somewhere. If any of you have any idea of where you would like to be rated, I'm open to suggestions. Otherwise, I will drop you off with Sal, because Sal now is the Tuesday evening show, and I typically watch her on Tuesday evening, so that's where I'll be going. And she's only started a half hour ago. She's not even playing the game yet. She's just in chatting, so we can drop in on Sal chatting. So we'll do that. Let's get back to my main angle here. Well, that was a big success that I didn't pre-plan at all. I always say I'm glad you could show up and hang out with me, but this time, audience participation made the show. So we are going to push the start raid button. I'm sure you'll find something. If you want, you could make the thing that I just made. I did not only make it live, but I brainstormed all the steps live. So, stay tuned in the future. I'm not sure if I'll do it this Friday or if I'll save it till Tuesday. We'll see. But I've had this brainstorm of I want to turn a fried rice into a pizza, so I'm going to be making a fried rice into a pizza at some point. It's going to be a little bit. That one's going to actually have to be planned, not just off the cuff do it, because things are going to have to be a few things are going to have to be pre-made before I can start it. So, but thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming out. Glad you enjoyed the stream. I enjoyed having you here. I enjoyed cooking and eating this. I'll be back on Friday, same time, and then I'll be back again on Tuesday next week, same time. That's the current schedule. I might try to squeeze something in every once in a while, but at the moment I've got that. Catch you next time.